Now, you've probably already heard a few bangs and crashes in the evening time. Well, presumably that's going to be fireworks because we're gearing up for that weird few weeks where people start setting off fireworks because it's Halloween time. I don't know why that would be, but it is. And then, of course, bonfire night when there's weekends or there's about a week, isn't there, where there's fireworks going off all the time and, all sorts going on, whether it's an organized display or if it's people doing them in their backyard. And it can be rather traumatizing for our pets. And I remember when my gran used to have a dog, it used to literally send it into just shock. It used to be running around and all kinds of stuff. So to help us understand what we can do about this and how we can make sure that our pets are safe and they're not getting traumatized, is our resident vet, Chris. Good morning.
Good morning, Gareth. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. It's been a while, and since we spoke, I've gained another child.
Well, congratulations. You're looking very well on it.
You liar. What do we do, Chris? Because am I right in saying that these fireworks and the noises, they tend to distress some animals rather than others?
Yeah, it's really interesting. Some dogs, it's mainly dogs and horses, really, that we're most considered about. But even farm animals can get disturbed by them. There's a thing about hot air balloons, and pigs can go wild with a hot air balloon comes over and makes this noise. But around this time of year, we're principally thinking about horses, cats and dogs and trying to mitigate the effect that these fireworks have on them. Now, when I was little, which was a long time ago, I hasten to add, fireworks weren't as loud as they are now. I think we've got far more sophisticated fireworks that really light up the sky. Before, when I was young, we had sparklers and rockets, really. And so to do that, they have to make a really big bang to get up there. And with that, you've got a lot more light and a lot more noise. And I think the noise is more important than the light, though both can have an effect. And so what we're looking at is the whole aim is, can we get firework displays more concentrated on a few days rather than spreading over this period, which could last for 2 weeks? Ideally, it would be 2 days, Halloween and bonfire night. So 31st of October, 5th of November. But you know what it's like. People can't get together, that sort of thing. And they like to have their own way of doing things in their back garden. Which is all very nice of them. But if somebody's got a little dog at home that hates noises, it can be a real issue for those people. And we had a friend of ours who had a dog just round the corner, and the dog bolted out of the house and ran down the road and got hit by a car. Mercifully, not too bad. But these are the things. Animals will react in a way that we can't all work out why they're doing it, as you said. And so the first thing to do is to make sure that you're with your pets when all this noise is going on, and to, if you can, condition them from when they're a young puppy or kitten to these noises so they find them less frightening. Because there's two things we have. One is fear. And fear is a natural thing to have. It would be unnatural not to be fearful about falling off a high cliff or being fearful of loud noises. What can happen is it can become a phobia, and a phobia where it paralyzes us and we act in ways that aren't always very helpful. And so for our pets, when they grow up, the ideal would be, and it's too late now because we're just about to have the fireworks, is to expose them to low-level noises where they get used to the concept. There are bangs and there are flashes, but it's the bangs the most important thing. And then they think, oh yeah, it's just bangs, I'm not worried about that. And they settle down and go back to sleep. Fortunately, my dogs are very much like that. But you get some dogs that really get very nervous. They try and climb up the walls. They run around the house. They get almost destructive in the house. And so what we have to do is to provide them with what would be a safe space. So the first thing, Gareth, is to draw the curtains so we don't get all those flashy lights. Second thing is to put the TV on or a radio so it helps to blot out the noise. Now, it won't do it entirely, but that will help with that. The third thing you can do is give them a nice big meal that makes them feel a bit more sleepy. So, you know, they think, oh, yeah, there's a noise, but I'm going to sleep this off. And also, you can make like a den where they can hide into a little place. You can make that in a small cupboard or something else where they feel they're safe. They're away from all the challenges that they're hearing outside. We do have medicines we can use to help calm them down, but I would be disingenuous to say these work in every case, Gareth. You know, there's some that seem to help some animals, but other animals, I'm afraid, they really do struggle. And I think one of the most important things for people is that they don't over fuss their animals. So they just treat them calmly, and that when the first bang is, they don't, oh, you poor little thing, come and hug me, because that goes over to the animal. This is something to get worried about. Well, if they say, oh, don't worry, that's right, give it a pat on the head and just treat it as almost normal, that can be more reassuring than making a big fuss of things.
Really interesting stuff, this. Now, if you've got any questions, what we're going to do, we will play a song and then we'll come back to Chris, because already there are a few questions coming through. But do you know, I've learnt loads there. I really have. And I was ticking them off going, my grandma and granddad used to do that, actually. And it's really interesting. But do you struggle over this time when you've got fireworks going off? And I never really thought about horses, because I guess I'm not... It's not every day, is it, that you see a horse unless you want to and you own a horse. But it's interesting how you mentioned trying to condition your animals. And it's too late to do so now, of course, because it's happening, but maybe for next year. But if you've got any questions that you would like me to ask Chris regarding loud bangs and conditioning your animals over this time, then send it over on WhatsApp. The number is 0161 511 9555. 0161 511 9555, and we'll be back with Chris next. We had to, didn't we, really? Katy Perry and Fireworks. It is Connect Radio, where every Thursday we're joined by our resident vet. A message in from Susan, who says, hi Gareth, please can you ask the vet if the age of the dog makes it worse, because my dog seems to panic a lot more than he used to do when he was younger.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think it depends on the dog, Gareth. I mean, some dogs get deaf as they get older, and therefore fireworks have less effect on them. But, you know, it also, how dogs respond is often influenced by their experience. So it only takes one bad experience, the dog gets really worried about it. So it may be that they've had a bad experience with fireworks, and once they've had one bad experience, it almost sets them up for getting increasing fearfulness and developing a phobia because of that. Yeah.
And another question in from Paul as well, I suppose similar-ish, and he says, are different breeds more susceptible to being scared of things?
Well, you'd think that would be the case, that gun dogs, spaniels and Labradors would be very easygoing with bangs, and maybe smaller dogs would find it more stressful. But really, we don't find that. Typically, I've known of a Labrador that was so worried about guns and about bird scarers. These things go bang to scare birds off in the fields, that she found it really difficult to take this dog for a walk. She actually ended up taking it for walks on the beach. So I wouldn't say necessarily it's one specific type of dog, but I would say possibly smaller dogs seem to have very acute hearing, and that may make them slightly more sensitive to it.
This is an interesting question in from Ian, and he says that I'm not sure if they still use a starting pistol when they race horses, but surely would that not scare the horse so it wouldn't actually race? I've never thought about that before.
I think again it comes down to conditioning, Gareth. You know, one shot probably they don't. They're almost when they're getting in a race, they're so full of adrenaline, these horses, because they've been conditioned to run, that probably they're focused on the running rather than on the sound, if you're with me. So it's interesting, isn't it, how you hear footballers can run around a pitch with a broken leg. I mean, it's a fibula, so it's not the full weight bearing, because of the adrenaline within them. I think that may be the same with our furry friends.
It's really interesting stuff. And one final question here, which says, good morning, Gareth. Would you be able to ask Chris, please, apart from a few of the tips that he's given, would he advise that maybe we take the dog in a different room completely and maybe turn the lights out and just leave it there?
It all depends on the dog. It's trying to work it out. Often, some dogs just like to hide away and have a den and be left alone. Others prefer to be with their owners because they find that a solace. Reducing light so there's less stimulus can be really helpful. And as I say, you can get these natural calming tablets that sometimes will help, but where you have a really phobic dog that they really reacted to noise, I'm afraid they don't work very well at all. You have to get in with those quite early on in this development if it's going to work.
It's really interesting stuff, and I hope that as you've been listening to this, it's given you some advice to maybe protect your animal over the next few weeks. Now, Chris is with us every Thursday. If there is a topic that you would like us to speak about, or an animal in particular, maybe you're having problems with your pet, maybe you're thinking of getting a pet, all this kind of stuff, then you can use WhatsApp to get in touch with us, and you will be able to just click on the WhatsApp link within our own app. You can find it on our website, or alternatively the number is 0161 511 9555. You send it over if you've got a topic you'd like us to speak about in future weeks. And Chris, always a pleasure. Thank you very much for your time.
Bless you, Gareth. All the best.